a box, and will start controlling who has access to the various widgets and typically what they are allowed to see within these widgets. Because BI in a box is purely a reporting tool, there is no capability to ultimately insert, delete, or update any information, as this information is being retrieved from your Sage 200 Pro deployment. But the administrator has full rights to assign privileges to a particular security group for each of the individual widgets. And this allows the administrator to correctly define and manage the security groups. After the security groups and the rights to widgets within those particular security groups, you can then also construct menus that can be allocated to specific users. This is to cater for scenarios where you may have people in finance or people in inventory or people within general ledger that should only have visibility and access to particular widgets, but you also want to control what their menu navigation looks like. It is not a requirement to create a menu for all the various users that have access. If you are happy with the BI in a box standard menus that have been provided, you can still control which security group and users assigned to a security group ultimately have access to a particular widget. But the platform does allow you to create various menus, and within the various menus, you can then go and assign widgets to those specific menus. Menus can be n levels deep. You can define a custom caption for the particular menu. A menu does have a parent, which then allows you to create a menu structure that is n levels deep. And for every menu item that you create, you ultimately decide which widget menu item represents. So when creating a menu item, you always assign it to a menu. You assign it to a parent, which creates the hierarchy of the menu. You provide it with a caption, which is what the user will see when accessing that particular menu. And you decide which widget that particular menu item represents. At the same time, you can decide how the opening of the widget must be handled. It can either open within BI in a box after the login process. Alternatively, it can also open in a new tab within your browser. You can do translations on all the menu items. You can do translation on every single widget and every single piece of information that is made visible within a widget. The administrator has full rights to define exactly what the translations are, to which language they are translating. Once the user groups, the rights, the menus have been configured correctly, the administrator will then start creating users using a user code, a password, defining the password, and just identifying who the person is and what the email address is. The administrator can also activate or disable any user accounts in the event that the user should no longer have access to BI in a box. You can decide what the default menu is that is being assigned to the specific user. So in the event that you have created different menu structures for various departments within your company, different users can be assigned to different menus. Most importantly is a user account must be assigned to a security group. And by assigning them to a security group, it will also then define and control which widgets they would have access to within that particular security group. A user can be assigned to multiple security groups. You can define that certain users have data restriction. If there is sensitive information that you do not want to display to particular users, be it financial values, be it personal information that may be available within a widget, identify each individual user account with a data restriction and then control what information is being made visible or is being hidden to gain access to a default widget that you would like them to see as part of the login process. You can select which widget they would typically see. So some users may only be using a very specific widget or a very specific report that they want to monitor and they want to have access to, and that is the report that they interact with on a day-by-day basis. You can tell BI in a Box to open a default application automatically without them having to go and select a particular menu item in order to view that report. Once the administrator has configured the security groups, the menus, the user accounts, and is now giving access to users based on these user accounts, when a user logs in, their menu structure and what they see and what widgets they have access to may dramatically change from what the administrator sees. Once your user account has been set up and that specific user logs into BI in a Box, they will then only be able to see their specific widgets and gain access to their specific menu structures. Then you will see that certain menu items have been removed. They do not have access to the security module, as this has only been made available to an administrator. They can, however, change their own password. Since the original account would have been created by an administrator with a predefined password, and that is typically the first thing that a user will do once they have successfully logged in, since the administrator would have sent them an email with their credentials. This is also one of the important things for BI in a Box, where the administrator can connect BI in a Box to your local SMTP server, which will then allow emails to be distributed from BI in a Box, and is very relevant when a user forgets his password and they need to actually reset their password without the intervention of the administrator. Um, on the login screen, there is a forgot my password. So if a user logs out and selects the forgot my password, it will then require them to at least know their username, and they must naturally know what their default or registered email address is that the administrator had captured at the time of creating the account. BI in a Box will then use the email settings that have been configured by the administrator, and it will send the user a temporary password that they can use, they can log in, and then naturally they would change their password.